Students, you are now in your prep time. Your prep time has ended. With the magazine of 15 rounds making condition one weapon. Is the line ready? The line is ready. Shooters firing 5 rounds in a time limit of 60 seconds. Stand by. Contact.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pit Talk, pulling pits and opinions with your host, Gunny G, where service members help service members, period. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcast and on all social media platforms. Let me know how I'm doing. Any criticism is good criticism. Let's get into it because I know you don't get paid to listen and I don't get paid to run my suck. We got a special guest by the name of Dr. Jose Flores. Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. I know he's a busy man. We finally got him in here. Go ahead and say what's up, brief background, and where you from, all that good stuff.
Right now, brother.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think you cut out, but yeah, I just want to say hello, and I'm happy to be here.
Go ahead. Brief background, how long you been in, where you served, capacities, things of that nature.
15 years. This August will be 16 years. Served a little everywhere. First duty station Okinawa, Camp Hansen, which ironically comes full circle. That's where I'm at now. I did motor T by trade, so transportation. From there, I went to an artillery battery in Camp Lejeune. Did some time on the East Coast. Then I volunteered for recruiting duty. Trying to go back to Texas. Send me to New York, so I was a single sergeant. So I went to New York. All blessing in disguise, though. Went to New York. Then I got ordered to California, CO5, which is MLG Logistics. Did some time CO5 and deployed. And then during that deployment, I requested to go to the drill field, which I didn't think was going to get approved. But that was God's plan for me. So I ended up going to the drill field, did some time there, then went back to the fleet. And like less than a month later, I was deployed again. And then, so now I'm PCS to Okinawa, Japan, Camp Hansen.
Dang, I would say, what do you want to be called? Doc? Jose for Sergeant? What do you want?
Just Jose.
Jose is fine. Okay, hey, I'll do before, I know we're recording now. I think your internet is either my internet laggy or your internet laggy, but you're cutting in and out.
Yeah, I'm closing some of these windows. I'm not sure exactly, but I was saying that going by Jose is fine. I don't need a professional title. That was just a self goal, but I don't really go by it. Like I wouldn't be offended if somebody doesn't call me that.
Okay. You're coming in clear, a little bit hotter. That's nice. Okay, so you're full circle Camp Hansen, right back to where your stomping ground. That's awesome.
Yes, sir.
Okay, hey, I will tell you what. I know that education is important to you, but we're going to touch on that a little bit later. And I want to get in right in the meat and potatoes, man. Hey, we deal with mental health. Why is it so important now and previous to 2020? Because, 2020 exacerbated all those challenges, all that stressor came from 2020, right? COVID, the pandemic, whatever the case may be. Why is mental health such a big deal now, and why did 2020 do that to us?
Yeah, I think mental health has always been, should have always been a priority. I think it's something that was overlooked. We actually had a discussion about that today. I think the Marine Corps uniquely, we have a stigma that we got to be strong. We're first to fight, we're tip of the spear. We're kind of bred that from recruit training all the way up. But to answer your question, I think it's a priority because when you look at even statistical data, if you want to be an analytical person, our suicide rate has gone up. There's, divorce rate has gone up. So there's a lot of research to back these issues. And I think that as leaders, we're kind of going away from the post-war era. And then we kind of hit a new adversity, the pandemic. But I think mental health it's such a huge deal because it's uncomfortable conversation, very controversial. It could be very subjective, but I think that it does warrant a lot of attention because, like you and I, being staff and COs, we'll take care of everybody else. You know what I mean? We're there for everybody else. But who takes care of us? Who do we talk to? You know, I think, and we're the more you move up, it's kind of like your circle gets smaller, smaller, smaller. And if you don't have the right one, if you don't identify it, then sometimes your mental health starts going, you know, to those continuums where the yellow, orange, and now you're in the red, and you don't realize it. So I think this is important because it's our health. You know, we're still men and women, we're still human, and we're not Superman, we're not Superwoman. So I think it's something that we need to pay attention to.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it was always an issue, I think. But how does that affect spirituality, man? Experience, holistic well-being, right? And mental health. I think they go hand in hand. You post a lot about being spiritual, about having faith in God and all that good stuff. And how does that help your mental health? And why do you think people's are lacking right now?
Yeah, no, great question. For me, spiritual, I would, we can categorize spiritual fitness, but it goes hand in hand with my mental agility. You know, I don't think that with the way I lead the people under my purview, not just like those directly impacting it, but even from a social media standpoint, I think that taking off all those other, all those additional, I wouldn't call them stressors, but that additional workload, it to me, it's not just what I could do. I have to root myself in a stronger belief bigger than myself. You know, we can tie it into certain leadership. You know, as much as burned out as I am, if somebody called me today and was like, "Hey, I need help," I'm gonna drop what I'm doing, help them out. I'm sure you would too. For me, it's my spiritual side. It allows me to tap into that. I guess you could say like superhuman power and understand why I'm doing it. So when I root myself in a spiritual realm, no longer thinking about like, oh, I got to get up at 4 a.m. or I got to do this. You know, you serve a bigger purpose, and without turning to a religious talk. I mean, the Bible tells you everything we're supposed to do. You know, it tells us the way we're supposed to love, the way we're supposed to lead, forgive others, even people that cast stones in you. You know, it to me that helps stay rooted, because once you start deteriorating your mental health, you start getting weary, you start getting tired, you start getting mentally run down. And that could affect your way to lead. You know, that could affect your resiliency personally. But then, like, how do I take on somebody who's like, hey, I need to talk to you about my girlfriend that just left me, and I'm over here like, I don't care about that right now, bro. Like, I'm trying to take care of me.
Yeah.
But when you pray and you ask for that strength, to me, it's just a daily refresher, and it roots me into like I'm serving a bigger purpose than just being a Marine or whatever. It's just being a servant, you know, and taking care of brothers and sisters. So that's, to me, that's every morning I wake up, I prepare my mind for I call it the battlefield. You know, whether it be physical, mental, or even spiritual, you know, because we fight a war that's not, you know, and nobody wants to talk about it, but we fight spiritual war as well, you know, and that could come in the form of other people. So to me, that's why it's important to go. To me, it's hand in hand. I couldn't do, you know, even a fraction of what I do if I didn't root myself in my faith.
That's good, man. That's good. It's definitely a battle of principalities, not physical fitness, not physical battles, right? Spiritual battles, spiritual battles up here and in the heart. And I think that because we're not, I think as a society, we're not co-aligned, or we're not aligned spiritually, right? I think that does play a factor and does play a role in terms of how we tackle the day-to-day, the stressors and the taskers. And I think you can agree, every day's a hill. Every day's a hill. And if you don't attack it, well, I mean, you lose. You know, you didn't even try. So I think we both can agree that spirituality is a big deal. It affects mental agility. And then obviously the three pillars, physical fitness, you can't have one without the other. And you touched a little bit about physical fitness. How do those two play a factor in your physical fitness now, previous to when you were a young Marine?
You're talking about the mental health and my
spirituality. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of, it's a full development, you know. The physical fitness, it's one, yes, we're required to stay in shape, but a lot of it is just, it's like we call it therapy. You know, you take on so much, and you need a way to release that stress, decompress. And some people sometimes, unfortunately, choose, um, adverse ways to, whether it be drinking, partying. Those are de-stressors because we take on so much as leaders. Um, but now physical fitness, they all blend. Like I need them all. Like it can't be one without the other. I think they build off each other. In order to be resilient, mentally strong, I need my spiritual. I need to prepare the mind. And I've done so much research, especially in my college, between the mind and the body and the connection between the two. So I feel like you can't have a strong mind if your body is not, um,
That,
strong. And then I'm not saying that you have to like deadlift like 400, but I'm saying you have to be moving around, kinetically moving. There's a whole psychological to it, like your confidence, your the way you project yourself, your health, So I think those all blend together. They're all equally important. You can't have one without the other.
that's good. Hey, thanks. I'm going to say doc. I don't know why I'm going to say doc, but I'm going to say doc. It just rolls off the tongue. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, I'm sorry. I'll keep it going. I'll keep it moving. It's a big deal. A mental, physical, a spiritual. I think it's a three-headed monster. We got to hit all of them. And why is education so big? Why was it a item on your bucket list? Why was it so important to you?
Yeah. So ironically enough, I wasn't actually really good at school growing up. But the reason that it was such a huge deal initially was because I wasn't going to join the Marine Corps. Never had any family in the Marine Corps. Came from a very traditional Mexican family, very poor. And I think I joined 2008. So Iraq was hot, war was hot, casualty, media, everything, newspaper, casualty, mass casualty, every war. And I remember fast forwarding to kind of speed things up. I got approached by a recruiter, to tell me everything I wanted to hear. But to answer your question, the reason education was so important because that was the only way that my mom and dad would sign my parental consent for me to join at 17. Yes, they were like, we're not joining because my mom dropped out of fourth grade. She illegally migrated to the United States. Fourth grade, no education. And we suffered because of it because she had to get a underpaid job. My father graduated high school, didn't went to college. I am the oldest. I'm the oldest of 6 children. So I was the oldest boy. My sister went to college, came back within a semester. So to me, my mom was like, "You need to go to school, Mijo." And I remember her telling me, like, "I don't care if you're in Iraq, I don't care if you're in Afghanistan, you're gonna go to school." So originally that was my why to start college, and I did. I fulfilled my obligations, and then I'm very big on God does everything for a reason. I was good in associates, but that was in Okinawa, so my mom wasn't able to attend that graduation. So then I decided to pursue a bachelor's in the States so that she could attend the graduation and I can hand her my diploma. And then my master's was there's a whole story on that. But eventually it led to my doctoral. Like at the beginning of this podcast, I told you that I didn't do it because I didn't want a title I did it because that was literally like my dad's dying words to me. My dad, we had a very unorthodox relationship. Never said he was proud of me, and I'm like, "Dad, I just did this." I remember going back home when my mom called me. She's like, "Your dad's on life support. He's got 48 hours to live." And I flew as a recruiter from New York. My brother came in. He was in the Marines too. He flew in from Hawaii, and my dad was already kind of like shut down. He was like kind of like in this vegetable state. And I was like, "Dad, I'm here." And I was just trying to get him to say he was proud of me because I knew he was dying. I was like, "Dad, I won recruiter of the year. I got my master's degree. I got a 4.0. I bought a brand new car. I'm doing great. I got meritorious promoted this past. Just trying to get any reaction." And he didn't. And I was there. And then finally, after about an hour, he kind of like, because he was kind of like in this shut down vegetable state. And then he kind of like came to his conscious and he looked at me and like, "Well, says that you?" And I jump up and I'm like, "Dad, it's me." I got married. I got married to a staff sergeant. I was recruited the entire nation. All these things. And then I was like, I got a master's degree. And then he just stops. He was like, go for your doctorate. And I'm just like, what? Like, Like, you didn't hear anything I just said? I was like, I just said, I was like, Dad, I'm still in the Marines. And it was like, yeah, we've never had a doctor in the family. Like, I want my son to be a doctor. And I joke about it now, but I told my mom, like, Dad's time to go. Like, he needs to shut down. I was like, Dad. But I look at my mom and I tell her, I was like, hey, he doesn't know that. I was like, Dad, I'm still active duty. And he was like, go for your doctorate. And I'm trying to reason with him. Like, I don't even care about him being proud at this point. I just, don't want that to be his dying words. And it was. He shut down, and that was the last thing he told me. He was like, he'll go for your doctorates. And, he kind of shuts down. When I look at my mom and I'm trying to reason with her, she's like, that's what he said. Like, that was between you two. Like, I'm not part of that. I was like, yeah, but I was like, did I hear him right? Like, she was like, yeah, he said go for your doctorate. And I'm like trying to like, oh no, it kind of sounded like maybe he said I want a Dr. Pepper, or maybe I like go see a doctor. Like, no, he said go get your doctor. Yeah, I remember him specifically saying like, go be Dr. Flores. So that was the why. That was the why that I pursued the doctoral. And yeah, a lot of adversity, a lot of late nights, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of discipline, resiliency. But I did it, and without getting, because I do get a little emotional when it comes to that. But my dad never said he was proud of me, but I remember that day that I defended my dissertation, and for the first time, because it's a panel of doctors, it's like most nervous board I've ever been on, 9 doctoral panel, and I defended, and then after that they reconvene, and then they come back and they let you know whether you got it or not. And I was there with my whole family. My mom was there, my son was there. I streamed it live on Instagram. Like, I had we're 8,000 people watching me live. So like, I'm either gonna be a hero, accomplish my dream, or I'm about to make a fool of myself. So they came back up and they started negative. I was like, oh man, my heart started to sink. I was like, Dad, I let you down. And then they were like, congratulations, Dr. Flores, like you successfully passed. And I just remember like the excitement that I got. My son didn't know what's going on. Everybody started clapping. My son's clapping. He had no idea what's going on. My mom was happy. But I felt my dad watching from heaven. He was like, I'm proud of you. And that, to me, that was the closure I needed, because that's what I wanted. I was like, I just want you to be proud of me. Like, when I got that, that's why that doctor is so near and dear. It's not, I don't carry it because I don't want to be called that, or because, and that's what a lot of people don't understand, unfortunately, because they could come across like, why are you being an overachiever? Why are you doing this? Like, even my peers, like, why are you trying to outdo us? I'm like, bro, like, has nothing to do with you and me, has nothing to do with anything. Like, this was a personal promise that I made my dad.
Yeah. It's not it's not, I said, I would say, I'll watch what I say, but congratulations, man. That's a big deal. How was it on your time? How was it on your family? How was it on the Marine Corps? Like, what is it that, wave tops, like, what is it that you did that was so stressful and during that time? How long was it?
So the online portion, which is the classes, I did it throughout the workup of my deployment, and I did classes while I was deployed. So those classes were not like the hard part. The hard part was once I finished all the educational classroom time, and I had to conduct a study. So that was very tedious because I had to do that in my off time. So I started it, and eventually led into my tours, the drill instructor side, to really take advantage of my off post. And I remember, like, I'm sure I see the hats in the background. Like, as a green belt, or even as a new senior, you're there from like anywhere from 4 a.m. to like sometimes even midnight. With all the preparation, without getting too much into detail. And I remember, you're probably gonna think I'm crazy, but I remember being like 2200, and I was like, I still got to do my due diligence, still got to do my duties, and then I still got to write after this. So I remember like 22, and I would and then even before I do that, I would go home, visit my son, kiss him, say I love you, and then come back and then start writing. I remember taking pre-workout at 2200, and everybody's like, what are you doing? Like, they're all getting ready to go on the rack, and I was like, bro, I still got a long way to go.
Hell yeah.
Drive, go save my son. And they were like, he's not going to remember. Like, he doesn't know, but I know. And even if it's just to kiss them, hug them, and then come back and still have the mental clarity to write. But I remember like whenever I would say I'm tired or I'm late or I'm exhausted, I would think about my dad, and we would have conversations. He was like, "You promised me this, and you're making excuses. You're not dead. You're not tired." Like, and I remember like praying, and he was like, "You do this, like you will change your name for the rest of your life. Like, sacrifice this time." And the most important thing was fulfill what I asked you to do for me. So yeah, it was very, very strenuous, very exhausting. Uh, and then it wasn't even just that, but on a doctoral collegiate level, like everything is, analyzed to like the minute details. So I remember my chapters, my dissertation got like rejected like over 200 times. That's another thing is like, like you submit it and you're happy, and then they kick it back. They're like, this is not doctoral level. And you're like, what? Yeah. And so that and rejection hurts, so going over there and then just finding that mental like capacity, like, okay, I'm going to get better. I'm going to write more. I'm going to read more. Like, I'm going to study. I'm going to send it to my peers, have them, and there was not a huge population of people in my circle that were even that level. So like, how do I ask them to edit a paper? And they're like, bro, like, I don't know what you're doing. So
wow.
Yeah, so that was taxing, very, very taxing. Yeah. And that's one thing people don't understand. Everybody's like, I want to go get an online degree. I was like, you can do that up to a master's. A doctor, I had to request permission from headquarters Marine Corps just to interview Marines. And you both know that request alone took like half a year. So those are small things that like, yeah, and then this is not, you can't chat PT a paper like they're conducting a study. Like this is a study that nobody has done because you're adding on to existing literature. So there's no blueprint. There's no, like copy this, like you're
oh my goodness,
like 100 pages. It's like writing a book.
Yeah,
man. So that was. Just looking at back, I don't know how I did. A lot of energy drinks too.
Yeah, we call them waddies. I'm sure you remember those.
Yeah,
that's great. That's crazy, man. I'll tell you what. Hey, if it ain't you, who is it then? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you look at your family, at your roots, who else, right? Who else is going to do it? And the challenge was given to you, man. And you definitely, obviously you reap what you sow, man. And look at you now. I'm zealous, and that is the goal. That is the end all be all for me before I retired to the Marine Corps, right? You have inspired. I'm like, this dude, is he in the Marine Corps and he's a doctor? There's no way. Like, how does that happen? And that was my inspiration. Like, look, every duty station that I complete, I finish a degree level, right? So next, my next is my bachelor's degree. The next duty station is my master's. And then right before I retire, that's the plan. And I get it. I don't know what it had. And I already have you in my electronic Rolodex. So I know exactly what I have to do in terms of Marine Corps, right? Because those are already added friction points for us. So congratulations, man, from me to you, if it means at all anything, but that's awesome. It's awesome to think that you did as a Marine. Nobody has an excuse, but yet we transition out, and service members they got military life and then they got academic environments, and the culture shock in between the two from going in and out of the Marine Corps, in and out of the service. Why do they struggle so much? And look, humble bragging, dog. Like, you've set the bar. Like, what is their excuse? Honestly, if they can't do it now, it should be easier when they transition. No.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think they put up these. I don't want to say excuses because I don't want to come off condescending, but they kind of push it off like it's going to get easier when I get out because I don't have formations. I don't have this. I don't have that. And their primary focus is their MOS, their occupation. And I don't think they're thinking outside the box of your off time. That's where you make your money. Your off time is for your late nights. And I've always had this analogy because people are like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for this. And my motto was from midnight to 04. that is your time. Like, I just found you your time. Like, no one's gonna bother you. No one's gonna, no meetings. There's no, yeah. So minute 04, I was like, hey, that I just found you your time, and they're like, well, I need sleep, I need this. And I was like, well, you're gonna have to figure out if that's how you really want it. So to me, midnight was like, okay, this is where I get started. I still got to be a dad. I got to do all this stuff. But I think they make excuses like, I'll do it when I get out because I'm going to my 9 to 5 almost. Then I get out, then I need to decompress or I need time off or I need to prepare for the next day. And they're not thinking and they're not really investing in themselves. And I don't think that we promote as much either. Not that, we have to push and shove it down their throats, but we just, if you look at cross population Marine Corps, like not a lot of us go to school. We've had an increase, but we're not like the Air Force where they preach school, they preach, so I think it's they look at that's the next step. Like, I'm going to go to school. But it is kind of heartbreaking because, I'm not saying everybody needs to go get a doctorate or a master's, but like I tell all the Marines under my purview that you should at least achieve an associate before you get out. But yeah, that's always been my mentality. I just think that they're not thinking, outside the box.
Let me throw this at you. Let's see if it sticks. You talking about think outside the box. But let me throw this out to you. The organization as a whole is a war fighting organization. And our primary goal is to win wars, win battles, and be America's 911. Where in that mix does school honestly fall? If we're not proficient at our MOS and our occupational, at our billets, right? That's why we signed up, right? Yes, a school was the added caveat to the contract, sure, but our primary job is to do our job and be war fighters. And when anything outside of that is just kind of, it's already the time constraints alone. Some of us work from 06 to 1800. And then just like you talk about, I still have to be a dad. I still have to be a husband. I still have to do this. Maybe even some of us have part-time jobs because the money that we make isn't enough, right? Especially in certain states. I know plenty of people out here in Washington that have a part-time job to subsidize their military pay because the tax is high here in Washington state. The mortgage is high here. So it's like, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but honestly, I think time constraints is a benefactor to us going to school on our off time, even during working hours, right? We're so busy with this task, that task, this task. To be fair, I think it's a leg to stand on, don't you think?
Yeah, no, and all very, very great question. I would kind of throw it back on you, for those that you say that, yeah, your primary job is, that we're warfighters, whatever. But I would challenge you that I have never met a Marine that works from 04 to midnight in only their occupation. And if you know somebody like that, I'd love to meet them. So if our job is, even if you do 04 to 1800 in their job, whether it be infantry, motor T, comm, whatever, outside of that, guess what do you think these young Marines, I'm not saying young Marines, because we walk the barracks, what do you think they're doing? Video games, TikTok, partying, drinking. So as the younger years, your first enlistment, I feel like you should invest in yourself. And the benefit to that, because remember, I started this podcast saying that I wasn't the smartest, but because of my education, I was able to develop emotional intelligence. I was able to develop ways to communicate, to empathize, to communicate from a PFC to a lieutenant general. So that's what the education gave me. And a lot of it, believe it or not, because I have gone through those dark valleys in my career, in my life, a lot of this literature, like this college ed, allowed me to identify like how to bounce back, so build that mental resiliency that I don't think that even with reading the Bible, it's just hearing these stories, because I did go through some traumatic experiences, and hearing these stories, it gave me hope. So I would say that it's an investment in you, but to kind of help you out, because we are busy. The thing that people don't know is that everything you do in the military, you already have college credits. A recruit that graduates boot camp, either coast, they'll leave with 13 college hours.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So apply that. Yeah. And then you get another 6 at MCT. I'm a truck driver. I got 9 credits from that. So I'm already, as a basic recruit going to the fleet, I'm already 20 hours deep in college. That's 1/3 of my associates. So they're helping you out. Now you just got to take it one class at a time. Don't overload it. Not saying you have to write a dissertation, but take one class at a time. And it helps. There's so many benefits because you're taking advantage of your off time. You're occupied. I'm not thinking about doing. You and I both know a bored Marine is a dangerous Marine. A Marine don't have anything outside, and he's got a 72 or 96, and he's not going anywhere. Or we're in Okinawa, it's typhoon season. If they don't have college or they don't have something other than video games, they're going to start doing some wild stuff. So to me, that's how it's assisted me. But just there's things that training can't provide you. And I lean along the leadership, communication, and then the emotional intelligence. How to empathize with people, and that's to me, it's a lot of reading about college, being able to communicate, write emails, draft policies. It's helped me out significantly now. The company first sergeant awards. Marines do great. I have no experience. I don't know how to write. I don't know anything about literature, proofreading. Then I'm like, yeah, man, whatever. Like, yeah, you deserve it now, but I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to write. So what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to put it on him. Like, oh, you don't deserve it. Like, whatever, suck it up. Like, good job. But it's because I have a deficiency. I don't know how to write. Rather than be like, hey, I will write you this award. Recognize that Marine. That Marine's going to go tell everybody and his buddy. He's going to blast it over social media. And you might have saved that Marine, to re-enlist because you recognize him. But I didn't know because no one teaches us how to, it's not like we have a PME. We're like, hey, write this, NAM, So that's what I would say.
Yeah, well, that's along the lines of my MOS. But you touched about your son and about making time for your son. I'm assuming, I'm not assuming, I know, I'm assuming that your son lives with his mother. Okay. And how do you balance family, supporting your son financially while still being present emotionally, right? You got your job that takes your time away, that takes you, that obviously you make money off of financially, right? And I know that you have, I'm assuming you still have your real estate license, right? So you got those two things and you do that on your off time. How does that affect your family dynamic and then still being able to be present emotionally for your son? And even his mother, right? Because you have to have communication with her.
Yeah, no, great question. I think the start of it was because we were married. We went through a divorce. The first thing was establishing a good, because a lot of people don't divorce off of good terms. It's not like, hey, not working out. A lot of times there's certain things that lead up to it, but going back to that literature, that's what helped me find that maturity, that professionalism, that healing world. Like, hey, it's not about you, it's not about me. I have a lot of emotions, but I want us to have a good relationship for us because he sees everything. He sees the way I talk to her, he sees the way we address each other. So that was the very first thing that I had to do was heal that relationship, and become friends again, communicate. So that was the first thing. Once we did that, we were able to, because even though we have our 50-50 custody, a majority of the time when I was stationed in the States, he was with me. Like I had him a majority of the time. And we do have a parental agreement, but it's our communication is really good. That you're like, hey, I'm working late, like you can keep him. But I wouldn't like to put work or school before him. Like he gets his dad time, and that will he's asleep, and now I'm going to open up the laptop and do school. Or for my, for real estate, take him with me. I was like, hey, we're going to go on a road trip, like dad and son, so I'm killing two birds with one stone. So he's coming with me, but I'm doing that for a couple of reasons. One, so I spend time with him. So you remember, it's like my dad always made time, but two, visually show him what a hardworking man is like. Because he's seen everything. And when he grows up, he's like, I remember my dad always working, always reading, always like, so I'm already imprinting in his head to develop a work ethic. So it's a fair balance, very, very tough balance to do them all. But I think my child will always come first. So it's a very, very unique. And if that means you wake up early, go to the gym while he's asleep, That means you go to school while he's asleep, or while he's, you're doing your Marine Corps duty during the day. So he's at school, you're at work, so you're not really. But it's fun, and then just doing those extra little things, on the weekends, uh, dedicating the first half of the day to him, or your children, and small little things, taking them to school, those little things that were like, hey, I don't have time. Um, we do, and he sees it. Our relationship is amazing, and I love my child, and I don't think that he ever feels that as much as I do. I don't think he ever feels like he's neglected, because I don't want to be one of those dads who's like, hey, dad, I'm always working. Like, he doesn't feel that. Like, I give him his dad time.
That's awesome, man.
So, yeah,
It's
exhausting.
it's yeah, especially I was talking to a couple other guests. They're actually, I know them, Godfrey and then Gunny Raza from Hawaii. They talk about single parenting struggles. You're in that shoot. You're in the shoot with that. It's the demanding time that, especially as a first sergeant, as a 89, 99 man. I'll tell you what, at least here in my experience with Washington State, these guys are busy with legal, and legal, right? And I applaud them, man. Like, that's crazy, because who's getting the phone call? You are. And that sometimes does it fall within your son's time? I don't know. I mean, that's on you, right? But what you talked about hard work ethic. What values and beliefs do you plan on instilling in your son? And then share that with us, because it sounds like you have a good head on your shoulders from spirituality, values and beliefs. What do you want to teach your son? Obviously, hardworking. What's another one?
Yeah, hard work. I think just respect, hard work. I want him to. I want to encourage him to be religious, but I'm not going to force it on him. But I want to teach him hardworking. But I think the root of it is, like, anything he sets his mind to, he can do. And I try to prove that, because I don't know what he's wants to be. If he wants to grow up and be a ballerina dancer, then God bless. Go be the best ballerina dancer. Even if I'm like, I don't agree. So just teach him that anything is accomplishable, anything is attainable. You just set your mind to it. You work hard, and he sees it. And I think he knows. Kind of hearing him interact with his friends, and he says it in a way like, "Oh, my dad has a lot of money," but he says that because he works a lot. Like, he's a very hardworking dad. He loves me. He's like always providing. And he like refers to me like he's like, my dad's like my best friend. Like, he's always there. I can count on him. To me, that's winning, because again, you alluded to it. I'm a single parent. Sometimes we do this with the children. Either mom or dad, and we do an amazing job. And his mom's an amazing woman, but we reconvene. We're like, hey, what's best for our child? And to kind of get into a touchy subject, that even includes, her choice of, dating outside, because she's dating somebody, and I have to be okay with that, as long as the three of us are on the understand, because they have a very serious relationship, and like, hey, our child comes first. And I tell him, like, hey, if you teach my son how to ride a bike, which he did on deployment, I'm not going to take it like personal, but you're developing, like, my son, because he was like, hey, how's his dad's going to feel? And I'm like, I'm not that immature. Like, you're developing my son, but you're helping him. So I don't, Jose Flores, like maybe 5-10 years ago, like, no, you're not teaching my son anything. Like, I'm the dad. I do that, but I'm not there. I'm deployed. I'm serving my country. But to have that maturity in that profession, be like, hey man, like, I appreciate you. You're in a sense playing dad's role on, and that's a hard pill to swallow. And I say that because of single parents. But when you look at the bigger picture, and I go back to my faith, I was like, hey God, like, I'm just blessed that he's learning how to ride a bike instead of who's teaching him.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So I look at it that we're able to provide that, and communicating with her, because he was, he felt very threatened. I was like, bro, I'm not, I felt like being too vulnerable on this podcast. I was like, bro, like,
it's okay. Hey, it's okay to cry, man. I got the shoulder right here, dog. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah. So we tried. I loved her unconditionally, and it didn't work out for us. That was not God's plan. But doesn't mean that we have to be miserable. So we still have a child to raise, and I think us doing the best for him. But I brought all that up to show him that, because there's lessons in that too.
Yeah.
Forgiveness. There's co-parenting, there's love. Because when you love your child so much, like those factors, like I just want, he's happy, he knows how to ride a bike. He sees healthy communication, he sees acceptance, he sees love, which is the foundation of things. Love, love, love. So that's what he gets to see. So that's what I want to teach him, rather than being emotional and showing him that that's it. And it does. It's not as easy as now I'm talking about it, but it wasn't that easy. Like coming up and learning. So
I'll tell you what.
Where we're at now.
I'll tell you what, Doc. Like, we were in Japan. I wasn't even deployed. I was with my family, right? And I was teaching my son and my daughter, my two oldest, how to ride a bike. My son picked it up like that. Just kind of held the seat, took off. In about 2 to 5 minutes, he was in there, right? My daughter, though, she was getting emotional. She was frustrated. She started to cry. I'm like, baby, it's okay. I'm holding you. I'm not going to let you go, right? And my buddy at the time, Eddie Nolasco, hey, shout out if you're listening. He said, I got it. Don't worry about it. Because he had 3 girls, or 2 girls at the time. He goes, I know they're emotional. I got it. You take your son, and then I'll take her, because his 2 daughters already knew how to ride a bike. So we're just out there hanging out. And I'm sitting there as I'm paying attention to my son. My daughter's laughing, and I look back and I go, oh, hell no. This dude just taught her how to ride a bike. I'm like, and I got super immature inside. I was turning red. I was like, that's my job. He just took my job. And, like you said, five years ago, it would have been, I don't think so. Right. And now it's kind of with time and space and experience. It's like, I look back at him like, man, at least you learned how to ride a bike. Just like you said. We talk about times, prioritize self-care, dude. It sounds like you prioritize no self-care and maintain. How do you maintain your identity, dude? Like you say midnight is your time. I'm like, I'm sleeping, and the devil comes out at 2 a.m. So I don't want to be up when he's up. How do you keep your self identity? How do you care for yourself in the midst of all this chaos?
Yeah. So, maybe I probably should have explained this as well. So the midnight to 0, that's not every day. You can't realistically. So I have the days that I know that, Mondays can be a long day, Thursdays will be a long day, Saturdays will be long. So I pick those times that I can. But I do need my alone time, because for me, the gym is like my time to put on music, decompress, things like that. So you have to plan, and even like the times that it's not like peak level, like I also have to, I think that people taught me this, but to like plan like naps, you know what I mean? Like if you're like, hey man, he's at school, yeah, you already know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you already know.
Underneath the stairwell.
Yeah, he's at class, he's at school right now, and I have something going on. I was like, man, I'm going to power down for like 20 minutes, because I still, like, it's like noon, and I'm not going to bed till midnight. So, small little things like that, and you learn how to master and conserve your energy. Or even if it's, you're done with the day, put him to sleep. It's midnight. I'm going to sleep for an hour until 1, wake up at 1, and then continue. So I'm not saying that you consecutively do it, because you will burn. And I've tested my limits, brother. I've gone, I think the most was 3 days no sleep, and it wasn't. I would never encourage that. I would never listen to that. It landed me in the ER due to exhaustion and dehydration, and this was on recruiting duty. I got hospitalized, and
wow.
I was again trying to run for MIC Recruit of the Year. I was doing school. I tested my limits, but now that could be a good and bad thing, because I'm like, all right, now I know. Let's see how close I can get to it.
2 days is good.
If you play, you play a dangerous game, but that's how you sustain it. You just knowing yourself. I know when I'm like, all right, I'm about to tap out. Very, very exhausting.
Yeah, dude. I'll tell you what. In the depot, that happens. You stay up for 48 hours, easy day. You know what I mean? Like easy, maybe not easy day, but you're definitely like in your alphas, wobbling, right? You know what I'm talking about. Trying to get that uniform right. Everybody else's uniform. But how do you strategies, tools. How do you obviously develop mental toughness yourself through adversity, through your own adversity, but how do you take that and then give it to somebody else?
Yeah, so I'd say some of your habits. So because people ask me this, like, how do I build that? Some of your daily habits. I'm a very huge um very huge advocate for. I start with a devotional. I wouldn't press that on somebody who's not religion, but what I do encourage them in the morning, when they get up and they're getting ready for the day, they're shaving and doing whatever, is to listen to like a motivational video or a podcast, something positive. So that's the first thing I tell them, like, hey, you need to start your mind right. So I tell them to kind of implement it. Listen, I love Eric Thomas. I love, Ray Lewis. I love Jocko. I love Denzel Washington. So a lot of these motivational speakers, I'll listen to them, and they're building because their words have meaning, and there's a whole psychological to it, but you're producing good energy. And I would tell them, write out their goals visually so they understand what it might not be college. It might be, want to mend a relationship with my ex or whatever it is, and have those goals, you write it out. And I would say too is really invest in a good circle. People that are going to keep you they're rooted, grounded, and people that are not going to tell you what you want to hear. If you're wrong and you vent to them about a relationship, you need that friend that's going to tell you, like, hey man, you kind of messed that up. Like, you're not right, or you could have done this differently. Somebody be an honest broker. So I'd say, yeah, adopt a good people. And the last thing I tell them is they really need to, because only they can see and dissect their own life. They need to weed out like the things that's not healthy for them, and a lot of that might be relationships. A lot of it might be, friends that bring them down. Or I think that was one of the hardest pills I had to swallow too. Was there were certain close friends and there were certain families that were just knocking me down or talking behind my back or trying to encourage me to. Oh, I'm sorry, you speak.
Oh no, I'm good. I'm listening.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Good. You're good to go. Don't worry, I'll edit it. Oh, you're muted now.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good. Can you hear?
Let me know.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Don't worry, I'll edit it out. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. So I figured this out on doing the hard way. Let me ask you this. You said set your goals, right? How does the growth mindset contribute to resilience and overcoming challenges for you? And then take that and then give it to some of the listeners right now. I need that right now. Jose, tell me what I have to do and why I need the growth mindset in my success in my life. All
right. You repeat that one more time. So you said, how do I get, or just, kind of.
You talked about set your goals, right? You have goals and what do you want to do, right? And that is kind of in the lines of the growth mindset, right? And when we talk about mental resilience, we have to have the look forward, the growth mindset, do this, right? How did you take that mindset, make your be successful and within your own means? How do you take that and give it to another service member? Like, look, this is what you have to do. This is a trend that I saw. Here's what you need to do.
Yeah, no, great question. I think, because you write it down, you can say you're manifesting or you're planning, but you need to align your daily habits towards that goal. So when you hit a roadblock, you go through a relationship issue or you get, bad paper, whatever it is, a ticket, speeding ticket, something, you remind yourself like, hey, this is what I'm doing. If it's for you, right, like me, before I got my doctor, I wrote to write every single day, Dr. Flores. Like, I would write it out. So everything that I would incur that day, whether it be bad, I would look back at it like, this is my goal. I have to do something to align. Or even if you don't contribute to that goal, you still want to write it out because you don't want to do anything to damage that goal. So if you're chasing promotion or a degree or whatever, and you start engaging in habits like drinking or, clubbing or whatever, and you remind yourself, like, that is not in alliance with my goal. So that was the trend that I saw, is people would say something like, I want to get a bachelor's, or I want to get whatever, and they didn't have a deliberate plan. Then, a year later, say, hey, how's the bachelor's going? Oh, I put on pause because, and I just get a laundry list of, I was like, did you write it down? Did you make goals? I was like, oh, I'm gonna wait to, and there's always, I'm gonna wait to deployment, I'm gonna wait to the SCA, I'm gonna wait to my child turns, whatever. And then I graduated high school in 2008. I have people since 2008 said they were gonna get it next year. In reality, like, the sad truth is they may never achieve it. So to answer your question, they write it out, degree or whatever it is, and they make plans. Like, what do I need to do? Like, I need to enroll by Friday. I need to, start my first class by June, and I need to complete this by whatever. And they have a plan. So now that they have something tangible that they can see, and then whenever they hit that resilience, you're like, hey, whatever it is, I'm not doing good because I just broke my girlfriend. Like, all right, well, that, train still moves on. You still need to start class this day, and you're making a deliberate plan. And that is just one example, but you have to write it down. You have to visualize it. You almost have to become, like, obsessed with that goal. I study Kobe Bryant a lot. He becomes obsessed, and, like, whatever his goal is, you're like, I'm gonna do this. That's non-negotiable. When I set out that I was gonna be Dr. Flores, non-negotiable. And people told me I was crazy, and they were like, you're not gonna be able to do that. Not on active duty, not as your instructor. Like, and I became obsessed. So I was like, you don't understand. Like, I need to do this for my dad. This is not about me. I don't care if I'm tired. I don't care if I'm gonna break. Like, I will die trying. And I became obsessed. That writing, that literature, that review. But it took a lot of writing. And then I would say, Thursday night I will write 1 page of my dissertation. That was a tangible goal. And so when Thursday comes and I'm like, well, the boys want to go out, I'm like, well, you said you were going to write a page, and you wrote it down, like, this is on your to-do list. To me, that helped. We're like, hey guys, I'm gonna stay back. And they were like, well, I don't think I'd write a page. So that kept me rooted. If not, I would have easily been next year. So that's what I would say. A practical way is write it down and create habits that build up to it. Eliminate habits that steer you away from that goal. And I think that has helped me out. The trend was they didn't write it down, they didn't have a plan, and they kept making excuses. They're just going to keep pushing their goal.
Yeah,
down the line.
That's crazy. I mean, because I tell you what, I put off. You talk about putting off things, and I did that when I had a goal, like submit a package now, wait for the acceptance of the package, and once I get accepted or not accepted, I'll go back to school. But then I realize, I mean, I'm in limbo. Like, I'm just waiting. What's the excuse now, right? I got to get enrolled. So I'm enrolled back in school, and nor here or there. But here's what I'll say to sum it all up, man. I'll tell you what, the reason why I wanted to bring you on is because I wanted you to be as transparent as possible, and your life, with your life experience, with your time, with what you're doing now. You have a lot to offer. And to be honest, man, you're teaching me as I listen to you speak, you got a lot to offer. Service members across the spectrum need guidance. They need experience. They need people that have been through it, done it. Can you hear me? Mental health is a big deal. It's always going to be a big deal now so much more after 2020. What can you do right now? What is one of those things that, hey, those people that are not listening anymore, they're not here no more. What could you have told them to do something different?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think we do need attention to mental health. And I know we've already heard the phrase where they say it's okay to not be okay. But a lot of the irreversible decisions that happened, they didn't have a bad life. They didn't have, it was it's not that they didn't want to be here or they want to take an action, is they were so much in pain that they just wanted the pain to stop, So I think it's important for us to take care of yourself. And I'll be, again, very transparent, brother. I'm a huge hypocrite when I say this, because I was actually reflecting on this yesterday. I was like, bro, like, I'm strong for everybody. And that's the thing, is that when you're strong, like, everybody expect, like, you would be surprised how many people don't call and check on me, say, hey man, how are you doing? Because they were like, hey, you're strong, you're this, you're at the top, and I'm like, it hit me yesterday. I was like, because we in our class, they're like, who checks on you? Like, who's your circle? Like, who's your one that hits you up and say, hey brother, I know you're strong, you're Superman, but who checks on you? And I thought of it, and I was like, I really couldn't think of anybody. I was like, that's sad, because if I didn't have the resilience, or if I were to put myself, another person, same profile, same accolades, and they didn't have that, I was like, what if they went through a dark time? In your darkest time, who can you call on? And that was a very, like, I didn't know how to respond. I was just like, no, to me, I'm quick on my toes. I was a recruiter, brother, too. So like, I know how to fire back. And when they asked me that, I was like, I didn't know what to say. I was like, wow, like it just made me pay more attention to my mental health. I was like, hey, I need, even though I was able to become self-sufficient, like that's not to say that in 10 years I don't, deteriorate or some life happens. So I would say that I think we need to pay more attention and put people in our inner circle. That today, right now, I was on the verge of doing something very dark. Who would I call? And putting that inner circle. So I think develop relationships is powerful. And just checking on each other, man. Like I think and I know this is going to be very, very sensitive, but because you and I have been in the military for a while, like something happens to somebody, we see all the social media blasts. He was a great person. She was a great person. If you ever need somebody, call me. Like don't ever feel like you're alone. Like they say that after the fact, but then I would say like, why not do that now? Why not? Why can't I text you? I'm like, hey man, are you just ready to check? How are you doing? I'm like, hey Flores, what's going on, brother? Like I know you're doing a lot. You're doing great. I just want to, and I'm not saying that I don't. I do. And that's a fault of mine, because then I will tell, even if I'm doing bad, even if I'm like, hey man, I got to write a paper. I'll be like, hey man, I'm good. Thank you for checking on me. And then that's that. Instead of being like, you know what, I am feeling a little overwhelmed, and that's a fault to me because I don't open up. So, yeah, I'll say that is one, taking a real deep evaluation of yourself, especially for the strong people, for the people that are at the top, the colonels, the generals, the sergeant majors, the first sergeant, the CEOs, the first responders, like check on those people, because sometimes, we all fight demons in battle.
Yeah.
You have no idea. A lot of us mask them, and we know how to be strong because we're a shield for everybody else. So to go back, if for those people that I would say like, hey, it's a storm. You're gonna get over it. Like it's not a bad life. Like let's take care of you, and it just takes that. I'm telling you, brother. Like social media is powerful. I will be very raw, very authentic with you. That I will be proud to say that I have literally saved lives off of social media. It could be a quote, Bible verse that I posted, and then somebody have like, hey, do you have a second? The moment somebody says that, I already know. I'll say, yeah, and like talk to me, like what's up? Like I'm thinking about doing something dumb. And people that I've never met, and I was able to, yeah, that's powerful, man. And to me, that's why I root myself in God. I'm like, God, that was you. And just being present, I was like, yeah, what's going on? And when we talk about it, and then I would share very, very raw, like things that I overcame, and they're like, wow, and look where you're at now. It's like, exactly, like this is where I want for you. Help, let me pull you out of that hole, out of that storm. That storm is going to pass, and then you're going to be fine. And I think that's all they needed. We call it the dark hour. Like we need to pull them out of the dark hour. Let the storm pass. Of being there, but we need to check on our people. I think that's what it comes down to, and genuine care, not like, hey man, you good, all right, bro. Like, yeah, I think that's powerful.
That's I giggle because that's right around the lines. It's just like you hit it. Sometimes those are the things that I do. Oh yeah, are you good? Okay, good. All right, I'll talk later. It's real quick and snappy. It's like, is that real genuine concern about your brother? Right? Are you your brother's keeper? That's the biggest question you got to ask yourself. Are you? I mean, if you are, then what are you doing to do that? Right. And I always think about, you talk about root yourself in word, in the gospel, right? Peter in the boat, Jesus comes out, right? He goes, come on, come walk on the water with me, right? Not verbatim like that, but he's like, come on. And he's like, okay, I'm going to come. And he's walking, he's focused. His mind is steady. It's quiet. And he's focused on what he needs to be focused on, which is Jesus at the time, right? And that could be anything for us. And I'm not virtue signaling by any means if you're listening, right? It's just that could be your focus. That's what you're focusing on. And for us, it's just Jesus. And for him, it was Jesus at the time. And he was focused, and walking. And then all of a sudden, he got distracted. And that's the you talk about darkest hour is, I think a lot of them, and may they rest in peace. They're distracted. They're not focused on what they need to be focused on. And it, like you talk about, is they're focused on the wrong thing and they got distracted on the pain and it hurts too much. But that's the time where you really have to lean into something, right? Whether it be, holistic well-being, physical well-being, whatever it is that you lean into it. When you're brokenhearted, lean into those things. And if you're listening, man, it's good, Doc. I appreciate that word. It's if it didn't help me, it helped somebody for sure. But it does help me. So I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man. You out there in Quantico, right? You said?
Yes.
First sergeant school. Is that where you're going?
Yeah.
You're not a real first sergeant yet. I got you. That makes sense. You got to learn how to be one.
I'll probably be drinking my first on water.
Oh, I did. There's a Fiji, right? Fiji. That's the only water should be in this world. Anyways, but yeah, man, I know you're in Quantico. I know you got time. I know you got do it. You got to probably do some homework, get some sleep, and do your devotion. So I appreciate your time. And ladies and gentlemen, this is Pit Talk, pulling pits and opinions with your host, Gunny G, where service members help service members. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts, and on all social media platforms. Let me know how I'm doing. Any criticism, good criticism, and where can they reach you at if they want to know more about Dr. Jose Flores? You hear me?
Yes. So last thing I heard, where you can reach in. I am on social media, Facebook, Instagram. I do have email. So either one of those, and I'm sure we'll probably end up tagging them. And yeah, reach out to me. Like I'm here to help out because I think God puts us in position and allows us to experience things so that we can help others. We have to go through the storm to help out.
Absolutely.
I'm here to help out. Absolutely,
ladies and gentlemen, we are out. Oh wait, that's the wrong button.
Pit Talk is a podcast featuring active service members who discuss their thoughts and opinions on various issues surrounding military life, current events, and history. The statements heard here are the opinions of its members and guests. These do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense and are not endorsed or sponsored in any way. Listener, viewer discretion applies.